do that thing where someone says, excuse me, and you're like, you're excused?
Yes, you're excused. I do that. I do that.
I do that too. Excuse me?
I think you picked that up from me.
No, it's from me.
Yeah, no. You're not that proper. I will call this meeting to order at 5:02 p.m. When the secretary is ready, can you please call attendance?
No, I'm through.
Lopez Polito,
Present.
Cervantes,
Here.
Chua,
Here.
Lee, Sadiq, here, Abdul Sadiq,
Here.
here, Nelson, Damavandi, here, Lynn, Lou, here, Ahmed, Withrow, here, Gunaman, present, Saba,
Here.
Kuriakos, here. Munoz,
Here.
Math, Artunian, Archbold, Sanhu, Nakvi, Krebs, Gill, Martinez,
Here.
Chi, Fonseca,
Here.
left quorum.
With that, we have quorum. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Approval of the minutes. If there are no objections, I'd like to approve them. Are there any minutes? There are no minutes to approve. So we're going to move on to the next item of the agenda. Approval of the agenda. At this time, are there any amendments to the agenda? Daniel?
I move to amend the agenda by moving item 9.8 to item 9.1, new business.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any objections to moving 9.8 to 9.1? Seeing none, it's so moved. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Mr. Winthrop?
I move to amend the agenda to move item 8.4 to 8.1.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any objections to moving 8.4 to 8.1? Okay. Seeing none, so moved. Are there any other amendments to the agenda at this time?
I have a point of information.
Sure.
Why is R5471 in final business and not old business?
R5471. Was it voted for in committee?
I don't know. No.
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah, that's why it's in final business. I check, I go by the roster, and when you do your reports, when you do committee reports, Rodrigo puts it on the roster, the voting records, and then that's how I know what to put when needed. Yeah. Is there any other, Alexis?
I need to move the 5419 to finance committee and final business.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Is it moved and seconded? Who seconded? Mr. Gunnerman? Ah. Are there any objections?
Can you repeat what she said, please?
She wanted to move B 5419 Public Health Committee to Finance Committee and Final Business.
So she's adding it?
Yes. Well, no, she's just inserting it into committee and Final Business. There's no addition. It's already on the agenda. Okay. Are there any other amendments to the agenda at this time? Seeing none, if there are no objections, I'd like to approve the agenda with amendments. Seeing no objections, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Public comment at this time. Would any member of the public wish to speak? There you go, Mr. Gunnerman. Go for it.
Since I actually want to do this in method, but since we have a packed agenda, I said to do this in public comment. So yeah, it's week 10. Hope you all are doing well. once again, I'd like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be your President Pro Tem 4. It's week 10. I mean, my term technically ends on next quarter's first meeting, unless you all appoint me again, but yeah, this is my last day technically, so. Yeah, in my opinion, this quarter has been a productive quarter and a very fun one too, especially compared to like last year. And in fact, this quarter only by the end of the winter quarter we already have 112 legislation on the website, and that's a lot. That's sometimes I mean that's more than some years already. And in fact, I think if we go at this rate, it could be the 2005-2006 record of 171. So let's go. And I think in the process, we became closer friends too. So yeah, once again, I'd like to thank you all. And I know it's this week and next week, so sleep well and good luck in your finals. Thank you.
Okay. Would any other member of the public wish to speak? Which one did you want to go?
I was 8.4, the amendment to the Constitution. Article 5470.
Hey everybody, I am on the agenda, but I just want to come my name is Marshawn. I'm the Government Relations Director at the ASUCI Student Association. I came by last quarter once to say hi, and so I'm here again to do the same. And my colleague Daniel is also here, but he's meeting with one of the research centers right now, so he's on his way. I will do a quick presentation sometime later on the agenda. Looking forward to talking to you.
Any other member? Sean?
Hello everyone. Tomorrow there will be a climate change march, 12 o'clock at noon. It would be great to have as many student leaders there as possible. It is in support of a lot of climate change legislations, including the pretty hotly debated one, the Green New Deal. It would be great to have any support, if there is support out there. And it's going to be exciting. In addition, there are voting center, there's a bill right now, the California state legislation, to make all colleges have voting centers similar to the ones that we have gotten for Orange County ourselves, but for all colleges. I'm not saying this very well. It's a cool bill. I will be posting a student leader sign-on form on the Facebook page. If any of y'all that could would sign it, that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Is there any other public comment at this time? Go for it.
So, I'll just say something real quick, just because I know we have a lot on the agenda, but I'm happy that you all are still here, you're still surviving, you're still a part of student government. It's definitely a lot better than the attrition that we normally get in here, so thanks. It's the end of the quarter, good luck with finals, and yeah, thank you for being a part of ASUCI. Speaking as alumni, I'm very happy that you all chose to stay as student leaders. I know it's really hard and it's really boring sometimes. You come in this room and you think, why am I here? I'm just hearing a bunch of meetings. This isn't really what I thought when I thought of governance. But what you do is important. It's an important part of democracy, and it's an important part of keeping the UCI students represented on this campus. Now, it might not be for all of you. You know, that's completely fine. You serve out the remainder of your term because there's a lot of important stuff that's going to come in the spring. But if you're feeling like this is a challenge for you, that working with other people, it can be difficult, but you relish, serving the students, serving the population, making a difference, then there really is no better step than what you're doing now. And, just keep on doing stuff like this in the future. Public service, it doesn't have to be as a senator, it doesn't even have to be for UCI. But to remember that no matter where you go, people will always need to be accounted for. People will always need the people to lead and to make a difference. And this is one sort of job. And you're going to meet a whole bunch of different kinds of people in your future. I hope the best for all of you guys. I know that as a part of ASUCI, you've done a lot of things. And to take that experience with you moving forward. It's a good experience, no doubt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item of the agenda. Item number 6, executive officer reports, 10 minutes. Are there any executive officer reports at this time?
Of course. So, so last Tuesday, I was absent from Senate because I was in Irvine City Council with a lot of students to make public comments regarding regulation of boarding house, as they call it. As you can probably tell, it's on LA Times, it's on the mediums right now, and ACLU is talking about it too regarding what would be violations of privacy, and would it, like the proposal by Irvine City Council could be a violation of the Fair Housing Act. But keep in mind that even though the Irvine City Council voted 4-1 to advance this proposal, it's only one of 3 required readings of the ordinance so far. So week 2 of spring, we could get an amendment on that. And until then, as requested by Irvine Mayor Pro Tem Christina Shia, so the Irvine City Council will meet with UCI leadership to talk more about housing security and things like that. In the meantime, on April 4th, my housing commissions will have the town hall. So we will go more in depth about our survey and survey analysis, and how housing insecurity is connected to student mental health, academic performance, sexual assault, domestic violence, things like that. Also, I met with Janet Napolitano last week, and UCOP has approved the housing assistance allocation, so that's exciting, especially there would be about $500,000 going to emergency housing grants for UC Irvine. I met with Chancellor Gilman, his new Chief of Staff, Lawrence Watson, Provost Lavernia, and Jeff Lipkoff last Monday, and they will provide feedback on the proposed policy campaign goals of UC Irvine as proposed by ASUCI, and he will get back to us by tomorrow. And also the Chancellor will be meeting with 2 Irvine City Council members tomorrow to discuss about housing. Town halls, so we got more town halls coming up for spring. So Assemblywoman Connie Petrie Norris is coming to campus on April 11th at 5:30 p.m. So it's going to be at Crystal Cove. It's open to all students and faculty, so please go and talk to our elected representative. On April 16th, Congresswoman Katie Porter will also be coming to UC Irvine campus, also Crystal Cove Auditorium at 5:30. All of you are welcome to attend. So my Chief of Staff, Cassius, and I are working on security at the moment for both of those elected members. Black Visions Conference is coming up on April 6th at the University of Southern California. So I know that the Shay's office, my office, and Kyle's office are working together to see how we can support students, because this is a multi-campus conference aiming to advocate for Black queers specifically, but also allies are welcome to attend. The Campus Climate Commission is working on the multicultural food fair in spring. Mental Health Commission, so they had the Distress with Mental Health Commission event yesterday, so hope that many of you get to stop by. So we are still in the process of advocating, we already, because of the passing of Assembly Bill 2391, so there will be mental health at the back of student ID cards starting this summer. So it's definitely helped, and Student Affairs is working on redesigning it for us. And there's also a new bill being introduced, it's Assembly Bill 624. So it's to advocate for sexual assault and domestic violence hotline to be put at the back of student ID cards too. So we're still waiting for it to move to California legislative process. But at the same time, I advocate for UCI care info to be put at the back of the card regardless. So still waiting for Student Affairs to get back on that. My mental health intern Roy and I are working with Shifte Khalili. So she's the executive director of academic planning in College Hall. So we are working on the Be Well website to bridge all the, like a one-stop shop where students can find all wellness-related resources on campus. My mental health interns are working on counseling centers, search for social workers, and also senior staff psychologists. So they're going through the interview process at the moment. We are working on the Reclaim Mental Health Conference, so it's going to be on May 4th and 5th. So we still need more student panelists, workshop proposal, exhibitor at the resource fair. So if you know anyone who's interested, please let us know. The Research Mobilization Commission is working on the research fair in spring. So that is coming up. SPFB, we are having interviews starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow. So Senate, please send your representative, which includes President or Pro Tem, Rules Chair, Public Info Chair, Finance Chair. That's the end of my announcement for now. Yeah, thanks.
Daniel?
Nothing from my office, but J-Board did not meet today due to lack of quorum. So they'll be meeting this weekend, hopefully. And that's all. Thank you.
So, hi everyone, I hope everyone's well. I know weekend's very stressful and rough, so please make sure to get some sleep and eat your food as often as possible. I'm not sure if y'all have heard about the college SAT scandal, or ACC, whichever one it was. I hope that, I am gonna be meeting back with Academic Senate, again sometime next quarter to also see about the potential to once again, see how with the initial drop SAT, ACT, or, you know, making it optional with this in mind. So I do just wish, like, hopefully if I could still get y'all support on that, I'll keep y'all updated with how that's going on. But just to let y'all know that this is obviously something that's really impactful for those that will be potentially attending the university. On a separate note, I had met with some folk from Student Affairs in regards to a campus-wide email that I've been trying to be sending out. I put in a request about 3 weeks ago as regards to the continuation of Black History Month and just understanding about misinformation and other stigmas that are associated, bless you, in the Black community, and just, you know, more information for the campus. There's still been some pushback on it, which, you know, kind of hurts me a lot as we are supposed to be, you know, representatives of the students, how a community is still being marginalized when it comes to, you know, information. There was pushback in regards to one line, which was in the discussion about, as I did work with someone from the Center for Black Culture Resources, in creating the email, there was a portion on there that was in discussion about reparations, as well as with black entrepreneurs and organizers that could potentially be helped in supporting. The portion that was mostly the highest portion of the pushback was in regards to having their personal information located on there. I do still, though, propose to still keep this going, as once again, as more specifically, my office is supposed to be the one to uplift student voices. As I also do attend for the end of this month, also creating a same thing for International Women's History Month, like just the continuity and of that. We should all be representatives of our students on this campus, and if there is a student population that is highly marginalized, I think that we should all be in agreement that, you know, we need to uplift everyone's voices. So, thank you.
Thank you for the report. Are there any more executive officer reports? Move on to the next item. Special committee reports. Legislation not on the agenda. Hasn't been voted for on committee yet due to some unforeseen things that kept me busy. Not to be able to talk about in the committee, so it'll be talked about today while in committee. Is there a report from the Sustainability Committee?
Right now, there's no updates. Right now, we're still in the time development of legislations because we still need to talk to the appropriate people in order to get a gauge of what appropriate action should be done.
Okay, thank you.
I have another update from the Sustainability Committee. We just got funding approved for the Be-Friendly Campus application process. So it is very likely that we'll follow through within the next quarter.
there any more? Well, no, those are the only two committees. Thank you for the reports. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, old business, R5470. Amendment to the Constitution and amend procedures regarding the filling vacancies in the executive office. If the author can give me a quick second. Harshan, when do you need to?
So whenever you all want me to present, I can present, preferably before 6.
Before 6? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and let you do it, seeing as how it is a constitutional amendment. And then if y'all don't mind, we're gonna let him present so that we respect his time because he is a guest, and then we'll move on to the regular items. Is that okay? Daniel?
One comment to inquiry.
Sure.
So you recommend we suspend the rules and then we can just.
Yeah.
We'll
Just suspend the rules, let him talk, and then we'll move on from there. Yeah. We're gonna do like one quick item, and then I'll let you, yeah. Go for it.
Hey, so this amendment was passed in the Rules Committee. I don't know if the rules count exactly, but I believe it was unanimous minus any members not present. We did inquire with the Student Advocate General whether any amendments can be made on the Senate floor. Because this is an amendment to the Constitution and it does have to go through the Joint Committee first, the Senate cannot make any amendments as it is. The reason why I did want to move this item up is because tomorrow is the deadline to publish this amendment in order for it to be on the ballot for this year's elections. And seeing as how this is the last meeting of the Senate this quarter, I want to try to get this item at least heard as soon as possible.
Are there any questions, concerns? Is there any motions on the floor? Comments? Senator Durman?
If there is no more, comments, I'll just open the call to question, R5470 by roll call.
Okay. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded to call this legislation. I don't have them up.
It's R5470.
R5470 by roll call. Are there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, when the secretary is ready, if you can please call roll. Does everybody know what we're voting? Yes, it's passed. No, it's not. Just making sure.
Senator Cervantes,
Yes.
Chua,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Sadiq,
Yes.
Abdul Sadiq,
Yes.
Mr. Quintas votes yes. Nelson, Damavandi, Yan,
Yes.
Lim, Lou,
Yes.
Ahmed,
Yes.
Withrow,
Yes.
Unaman,
Yes.
Sava,
Yes.
Kuriakos, Munoz,
Yes.
Math,
Yes.
Artunian,
Yes.
Archbold,
Yes.
Sadhu, Nakvi,
Yes.
Krebs, Gill,
Yes.
Martinez,
Yes.
Chi,
Yes.
Fonseca.
Yes.
The ayes are unanimous.
With that, motion passes and carries. Legislation. If there are no objections, I'd like to suspend the rules of the day. Or actually, can someone make a motion, please? Sure. Yeah,
I move to suspend the rules.
is there,
Second.
is there a second? Is there any objection? So there's no objection. Okay, rules are suspended. Whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Question, do you have a Mac adapter?
A Mac adapter? Don't think so.
You do? You can't see. Thank you.
President Devore said.
Let the record show that I called Mr. Goodman.
Home Depot. No, that's not Home Depot.
She's like, the camera's on all my.
Best Buy. Best Buy is the worst.
What's up? Excuse me?
I just have it on my computer and there's no internet here. I was trying to share it with you. But do you have HDMI?
Yeah.
HDMI should work.
Cool.
Yeah, you and you know.
Oh, sorry.
I gotta actually. Oh,
Elbow. higher ed landscape training.
There you go.
Maybe have USC and NBC.
Oh, you're gonna do it?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Just let me know.
Perfect, sounds good. Hello, everybody. Thanks again for suspending the rules and, for, letting me present to you all. So this is something, I hope that this is the start of doing this more often with the Senate, on a regular basis. These, I work with the UCSA, which is the, statewide, think of it as statewide student government of all the student governments. And so what we'd like to do is, and especially as we move forward, is to provide a whole bunch of different sets of trainings that we think is really cool and good for the Senate to have as you do your work of advocacy. These trainings typically are pretty long, so our trainings are average at about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm not going to take that much time today, don't worry. So I know that there was about 10 minutes that was allocated to me, so I'll try to stick to that. I hope today's training will be a start of the conversation, and as the Senate sees the necessity for having more trainings, we could always come back and do more of those. The next slide, please. So this is me. This is a very old photo of me. I was trying to put my colleague Daniel's photo up. We didn't have internet. I'm sorry. But there's just to give a quick structure of UCSA, there is 4 full-time staff, professional staff that work at the organization, including myself. We also have Daniel, that is our University Affairs Director, and Sally, who is our Organizing Director. At some point or another, y'all may have met with Sally. Then there's also our Executive Director on it. So between the 4 of us, we manage anything that's organizing on the campus level, to a system-wide university level advocacy, to my role with the state and federal advocacy. And we cover a whole host of issues. So we come and visit each of the campuses on a monthly board meeting. We did visit Irvine in October last year. This is what we hope to be able to achieve, is a strong relationship and help you all with the tools necessary to do the work of advocacy that you are doing as every day and moving forward. So next slide. So today's agenda, I'm gonna not go over all of that. This is what will be the hour-long training. So I'm only going to talk about the first 2. Maybe if we get to the 3rd point, which is talking about essentially the higher education landscape. So when we look at the state of California, as we're doing advocacy around higher ed, who are the power players that we should be keeping in mind and look into and doing advocacy around? What is the legislative and budget process looking like, and how do we get involved with that? And also, how do we mobilize and build power around this? There's also one thing that I want to highlight, is that we have 3 annual conferences. So UCSOS, Student Organizing Summit, happens during the summer, where we select our issues that we want to work on. Then we have Student Lobby Conference that's coming up actually next weekend, where we hit the Capitol and have a lot of visits and lobby trips, where we do advocacy around our budget and bill priorities. And also we have our Students of Color Conference, which will be next month. And that is also an opportunity where our communities come from across the state together to talk about their partisan issues and advocacy that we want to focus on. So each of these conferences are opportunities for all of you not only to be involved, but actually to attend, to participate, to meet with other student leaders across the state, and to get involved with a lot of the issues. And that is typically done through the external VP office. So Deshay would be the person you'd want to reach out to if you want to go to these conferences. Probably for SLC it's too late, but we're way too late. There we go. But for a SOC that's coming up, definitely be in touch. And yeah, so let's go to the next slide. So let's quickly talk about power players. You all probably know all of these folks, but just to recap, from the statewide version, we have what we work with at the university level a lot is the UC Office of the President, or short for UCOP. A lot of what Annie was mentioning, meaning the President of Napolitano, that President would be the head of the UC Office of the President. But there's also an entire organizational structure under that. So think of just at UCI and how the structure of the campus is organized here. And the same exact structure similarly exists at the system-wide level. So we have student affairs, we'll have academic affairs, we'll have a lot of different areas where we do focus on, and with each of those, we actually get involved and influence decisions that are being made. There's also then the Board of Regents. So think of UCOP as more like the day-to-day practices and ongoing visions of the program and the efforts that are done at the university. Then there's the UC Board of Regents, whose job is the more fiduciary responsibility as well as the longer-term vision of the university and the institution. And so they meet once every 2 months in odd months, and they actually were just meeting today and yesterday at UCLA. Typically, it is twice a year in a Southern California location, and the rest of the year it's in San Francisco where they meet. And so they are the final decision makers of any and all kinds of policies at the institutional level. So a lot of the times, our late last to go to in order to get something that we really want to become codified within the codes of the institution is the UC Board of Regents. And then we have the state legislature, which we'll cover, and the governor, who are both really powerful, like key kind of areas, the governor's office and the legislature that we do work with. Finally, you all as the students, and we'll talk about how the students come into effect and where we can put the most amount of advocacy. So first and foremost, let's talk quickly about governor. All of you probably know, hopefully know, I hope so, that Governor Newsom is our governor now. He was elected this past November, and so part of the things that he has in terms of power, he attends the UC Board of Regents meetings, he has ex officio seat on there, he has veto power over legislation, and he largely controls the California budget process. What this means is, the reason that this makes this figure so powerful is that literally, in terms of what happens at our institutional level, the government's power to choose the regents makes a difference. So let me give you a very specific example of how this power comes into effect. Governor Brown, over his 8 years of tenure, he spent a lot of time selecting regents that were not profound with tuition increases. And we have seen that come into effect after years of advocacy and a lot of coalition buildings that our organization has had with a number of these regents. We were able to, as of today, halt the tuition increase for non-resident tuition until further notice to see what happens next. But that would not be possible if there hadn't been more friendly regents that on the board that the governor hadn't had set a vision for that. So there is that. Then there is also the ability to veto legislation. It's at a separate time where we go over all of the legislative process, you will understand just how painful this could be, where you spend months and months trying to push a legislation through the legislature, and just because the government doesn't like it, they can veto it and kill the entire bill altogether. So this will come more into effect, but that's a very powerful tool that they have. And also the California budget. Now this is where I'm hoping to be able to spend a little bit more time today to talk about how the budget structure works and why it's so important that we have an understanding of how the governor's mindset and framework works in terms of what their priorities are and how it shapes the budget. So that's why the next slide is so important. So we try to track a lot of things when we look at our key figures, such as what promises did they make when they were running for office. So over here you see Governor Newsom's California Promise Cradle to Career Education Platform, which is the platform that he ran on when he was running for the governor of the state of California. What this tells us is that, and this is the same message not just to us, but to everybody in the state legislature, is that, hey, I want to see these things happen, and I would support any of these proposals that you put forward. So we know that he wants a universal preschool, so if somebody introduces a bill that is about universal preschool, chances are that he will likely sign it and he will support it. So it's really important to track these things. Not just this is just during the election years and election cycles, which is why we track, we have such a powerful civic engagement body to track these things, but also ongoing with things like social media, with things like press conferences, press releases, when they come and talk to the media. Anytime they say something, they tweet something out that tells us a little bit more about the insight of the governor's office and what direction they're trying to go towards. So these are just a list of his priorities as Governor Newsom, at the time, the contestant for Governor Newsom was running for office. And just to show how powerful these are, every one of these bullet points right now has a bill in the state legislature that's being pushed in that regard. So every single one of them has somebody authoring a bill around. Next slide. So who is the state legislature? So many of you all know it's a bicameral system, which means there's two bodies. We have the Senate, the state Senate, and the state assembly. The state Senate, or so-called the upper house, is consisted of 40 senators, and each of them are elected to 4-year terms. And every 2 years, half of them are up for re-election. So which means this coming 2020, 20 of them will be up for election. State assembly is also called the lower house, has 80 members, and these folks are elected to 2-year terms. So all 80 members are up for re-election every 2 years. So next 2020 elections, every one of those 80 members are up for re-election. The maximum terms that anybody could serve on either Senate or Assembly is 12 years. So it could be either 3 full terms at the state Senate, 6 full terms at the state Assembly, or a mixture of the two, doesn't matter. But the total years that you could have is 12 years, and that is the cap on how many years you could serve. So you term out after that, you cannot run. Which are the types of things that we'd like to think. So you could probably look at some of the members, especially if they're folks who are terming out. That is a race that would be very interesting to see who are the people who are trying to position themselves as the folks who run next, and to try to really track that. Next slide. So, but in the state capital and the legislature, we follow, we talked about there are 120 members. We try to stay updated with everybody as much as we can, but there are certain key figures that we really try to pay close attention to. These are, at the assembly side, it's the Speaker's office, Speaker Anthony Rendon, Lorena Gonzalez, the chair of Appropriations Committee, Kevin McCarty, the chair of the Budget Subcommittee for the Education Subcommittee, the Budget Subcommittee, and Jose Medina, who is the chair of Higher Education Committee. So we'll talk about each of these and what they mean in the context of the legislative process. But it's safe to know these are a lot of times our key folks. Every time we go to the Capitol, we track, we see what their priorities are, what are they saying, what are they doing, what do they want to see, and if there is something that we want to see, these are the folks that we go to try to shape their agenda. And on the Senate side, similarly, we have the pro temp of the Senate, Tony Atkins. We've got the Appropriations Committee Chair, Anthony Portantino, Richard Roth, who is the chair of the Budget Subcommittee, and Connie Leba, who is the chair of Education Committee. Similar process, similar structure. Again, these are folks that we really try to pay close attention to. Next slide. So, okay, let's actually go back. Perfect, thanks. So let me spend a moment to talk about why these things are really relevant. If we think of our efforts in terms of legislative and budget processes, it's easy, quickly you realize that actually the way a bill becomes a law requires a bill to go through a number of committee processes. So every time a bill is introduced into a law, before it becomes a law, it goes through first policy committee. So depending on what the issue is, it gets assigned to a policy committee. And because we care about higher education, we only track the higher education policy committees. But there's similar policy committees such as environment, healthcare, K-12 education, all kinds of stuff. Then each bill also will be assigned to a budget committee because a lot of the bills also have a cost associated with them. And that's where the budget subcommittees come into effect, which is where we have the picture to the corner left of the chair of that committee. That's why that's important. And then finally, after let's say it passes through both the policy and the budget committees, then it goes to appropriations committee, which is where they will be competing it around every other bill about what each of those are. And that becomes, that's why that's important. And so finally, why we track the pro temp and the speaker on the other side is because their messaging matters a lot in terms of what will pass and what will not. Now I know this is getting really dense, I don't want to spend too much time on that. So I want to pause here. This was just something that I felt that was necessary for presented to folks just as a sample of what the higher education landscape looks like. The actual training is longer. It goes into far more detail as far as how the budget process look like. But there's I think, slide later on that talks about budget. No? There we go. Thank you. Very good. So, how much time do I have? Am I completely out of time? Is that done? Oh. Let me just real quick mention this. The budget process is really important. It happens on January 10th. The budget comes out. Right now, we are in the February-April timeline, which influence a lot of what's happening. So I'll give you an example of what that influence looks like. At UCSA, we track the governor's budget, and we have put out a number of, like essentially what the budget's priorities that were released by the governor looks like. So the EVP office has received an email and gets ongoing emails from us about what are these budget priorities looking like and what are some of the bills that we send out. What I encourage all of you all is to work with the Shays office and the EVP office. If you are interested in any particular topic, particular theme, you can access what is higher education budget for UC are, what the bills are that we are following through, and then reach out to us if you want to influence it and if you want to change it. If you ever have a legislation on the campus that you care about, that you think that you want to turn into policy, ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of times you will hear back that UCI can't do that alone. You have to go to the UC, you have to go to the Board of Regents, eventually you have to go to the state legislature sometimes. So that's why we do this presentation, so you all kind of know how to build your way up into that change. So thank you for your time. This was just a sample for that training. I will be available at any time if you all want to reach out to me for more information. And I know that I have an affinity for this thing, not everybody does. But if you ever find yourself wanting to do some advocacy or learn more about what you're doing, you can always reach out to us either through the UP office or directly. I will leave my cards and information. Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you send this to me, is it okay if I post it on the Senate page for everyone to be able to look at it?
I'll send you a UCI specific version so that you can see some of the more details of that. And also, one other thing that I would say, we have a lot of webinars aside from these. This is more structural, but we actually have a lot of issue specific webinars that we do here and there, trainings, whatnot. So you can go on our list of trainings that we provide, and if there's anything that you specifically want to see in the future, let's say, hey, we want to hear more about how to organize, how to, like if you're doing constitutional amendment, let's say you want to learn about some specific trainings around that, we can provide those. So I'll send you all that.
Yeah, Senator has a question for you.
Would you be able to leave any contact information?
Yes, no, I need to remind you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, and please don't forget your book.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't have enough cards. There you go. Here's some. If you want to spread that around.
And I also have Farshawn's information if y'all need it as well. So.
Thank you, Farshawn.
Thanks,
Always appreciate it.
At any time, happy to come.
Oh, really? Oh, very cool.
Okay, we'll move on to the regular business. Yes,
The rules are still suspended, right?
we can just bring it back.
And move to within the rules.
Second.
Moving and second, are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll go on to regular session. R5481, creation of a meditation space. This has already been through a reading, so discussion is now open. Let me put the legislation. Did you vote on this in committee, Randy?
Yes, we did.
How was the vote?
The vote count was 7-0 unanimous, and there are no amendments.
Is there any more items for discussion? Mr. Goodman.
Motion. I think this legislation is a good one. I'm support with that. Motion to call the question by acclamation.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to call to question by acclamation. Are there any objections? Seeing none, all those in favor of legislation R 5481, please raise your hands now. All those against? Abstentions? Seeing none, legislation R 5481, creation of meditation space, passes. We'll move on to the next item of the agenda. B 5417, focus group for the School of Social Sciences. This has already gone through a reading. If the author has any questions, answered, but for informational purposes, did this go through committee, Mr. Goodman?
Yes, it went through committee, it passed, I think, 0-0.
Was there any amendments?
Yes, there were 3 main amendments. The first one was that the focus groups are only going to be created during winter, not this quarter. The winter quarter part is crossed out. And instead of 50 Starbucks gift card, it became 40 Starbucks gift card. So the total becomes $234 instead of $280 something. And yeah, there's also an amendment in the last refer clause changing date of March 14 to a more vague time of spring quarter of tuning.
Is there any more items for debate on this topic?
I'd like to ask Senator Goodman, what was that last thing you said? What was that last clarification?
Oh, it wasn't the results clause. Before there was a date of when this is gonna be, which is like March 14, I think. Or I'm not sure. Basically, there was a date before, and we changed it to make it only spring quarter 2019 instead of like having a date there.
Okay.
Is there any more items for debate? Questions, motions? Senator Goodman.
Motion to call B 5417 by acclamation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to call B 5419, 17. By acclamation. Are there any objections? Give me a second. Is there an objection?
No.
All right. Seeing no objections, all those in favor of legislation B 5417, focus group for the School of Social Sciences, please raise your hand now. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing and hearing none. Motion carries, legislation passes. We move on to the next item of the agenda, amendment to the ASUCI election code to limit eligibility for voting for international senator. This has already been read before, and this, so we will open up discussion. Now, was there any amendments?
No amendments were made, because as this is an amendment to the elections code, and it has to be approved by the Joint Committee on Governance and Internal Policy, no amendments can be made by the Senate.
You have a comment to make on this legislation, however. It has come to my attention that the person who runs the election, who is Aaron, in order for him to be able to get the information to know who is an international senator to see, because he's the one who runs the voting procedure and he's the one who tabulates, he's the one who runs it. In order for him to have that clearance is, I think he said, 2 above what he has. And in order for him to get that clearance, there's a very, very, very low possibility for him to get that information that he would need to be able to differentiate between a normal student and an international student. It had something to do with certain information that is specific to international students. And he just let me know, he would just let me know that even if this were to pass and you were to make this change to the elections code, he would try to get the clearance, but there's a possibility that he might not be able to. He just wanted to know.
decent, not work around it, but instead of like having us vote on it today, I would recommend us to just commit it to advocacy to see what workaround we can do about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would, okay, so the reason why that would be okay was, since this is a change to the elections code, and the election packets are already set out, it would not take into effect into the next special election. So it is still possible to make this change happen, but it wouldn't happen this year. Because, elections packets are already out, we're already playing by a certain set of rules, and we wouldn't be able to change them.
Did Aaron specify which department you need to talk to? For clarity.
He most likely did, but it is a conversation I had with him a week and a half ago, so I can't verbatim or recall, unless Daniel, you remember which department it would be?
Well, I'm not entirely sure what the conversation was, but, it would be under student affairs.
Student affairs.
Okay.
My advice would be go talk to him directly. Because he's the one who runs the elections, for ASUCI.
Like student life and leadership thing, or like what?
No, like, he's the one who makes sure elections run, you know how we do online?
I know, but the student life thing, which
Student
person?
affairs.
Student affairs, which person is that?
Right?
Well, so ASUCI is under student government, student media,
Yeah.
and then the auxiliary services supervises student government, student media, and then student affairs supervises auxiliary services. Yeah, it's a whole like organization. Just a charge.
Yeah, there's a,
Just a
actually,
charge.
you know what, I should probably say that to all of you. That's pretty useful information.
I see, I will try to talk to people too.
Is there any more motions? Questions? Mr. Goodeman?
I move to commit Article 485 to advocacy.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any objections to sending this legislation to advocacy? Seeing none, it's been moved to advocacy. Please just make sure to communicate with Michael, since he is the international senator. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, new business. Item number 1, creation of appointment of the chief of staff in the office of the student advocate general. This is new business, so the author, please do the reading.
Whereas in ASUCI bylaws, Article 17, Section B, subsection 11 states, under their authority as the head of the office, the student advocate general is responsible for educating the student body about students' rights, university and ASUCI policies, laws, regulations, and procedures, and to promote awareness of the availability of advice and representation services offered by student advocate general pursuant to this section. Whereas in the ASUCI Constitution, Article 9, Section 3, subsection B, subsection 7 through 9 states, under their authority as head of the office, the student advocate general has the power to set the staff composition of the office not defined in this Constitution, to administer the office's budget approved by the Senate, to delegate matters to others in the office as needed. Whereas in the ASUCI Constitution, Article 9, Section 4, subsection A states, the student advocate general may hire staff for the office which is not defined in this Constitution, but the Senate must confirm any staff who receives a stipend. Whereas ASUCI student advocate general Daniel Martinez has laid out the vision and plans for his office in conjunction with student government and student media executive director Stephanie Van Ginkel. Whereas those plans include the hiring of one more paid core staff position, chief of staff. Whereas the creation of this position is necessary because there needs to be a precedent established for future ASUCI student advocate generals to follow in order to best advocate for and support the UCI undergraduate student community. Whereas the chief of staff will solely focus on assisting the ASUCI student advocate general in daily tasks and supporting the various core staff members of the office of the student advocate general. Therefore, let it be resolved that the chief of staff will be paid. Therefore, let it further be resolved that ASUCI Senate approves the creation of the chief of staff position. Therefore, let it be further resolved that $279.18 be utilized to pay for the stipend of the chief of staff. Therefore, let it be further resolved that $270 from the program cost account will be reallocated to the stipend account to account for the differences in stipends. Therefore, let it further be resolved that $6.48 from the program cost account will be reallocated to the benefits account to account for the difference in benefits. 2.4% of the stipend. Therefore, let it be resolved that $2.70 from the program cost account will be reallocated to the PR liability insurance account to the account for the difference in PR liability insurance, 1% of the stipend. Therefore, let it be further resolved that the following conditions will be applied regarding the respective stipends of the student conduct and academic casework for positions as shown below. Chief of Staff, stipend $90 per month, benefits $6.48 per month, PR liability $2.78 per month. Therefore, let it further be resolved that the following student be confirmed for his respective positions as a member of the staff of the ASUCI Office of the Student Advocate General and afforded all privileges associated with such appointments. Therefore, let it finally be resolved that the above student remain appointed and confirmed for his respective positions as a member of the staff of the ASUCI Office of the Student Advocate General for the academic year 2018-2019.
That discussion is now open. Daniel?
So there are some complications regarding higher mission staff. So therefore, I move to postpone our B5421 indefinitely.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Are there any objections? Seeing none, legislation is postponed indefinitely. Question, would you like the legislation withdrawn or just postponed?
Postponed, definitely is a fail.
Yeah, fair enough. Gotcha. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Point of information.
Sure.
So I was kind of confused on the word indefinitely. It's just for an unlimited or unspecified period of time. So I wouldn't say it would be specifically a fail. It would just be like postponed until further notice.
Well, that's how it works in Robert's rules, though. It's to postpone indefinitely is to kill an item.
My apologies.
Yeah. Moving on to item number 2. Number 2 has already happened. R54, so we're going to move on to item number 3. R5485, amendment to the bylaws to clarify agenda posting procedures. Go ahead, Dan.
Whereas Article 3, Section 1, Clause K of the ACCI Constitution states students have the rights to influence decisions which affect them. Whereas Article 3, Section 1, Clause O of the ACCI Constitution states students have the right to choose their student leaders and to hold them accountable through the methods outlined in this Constitution. Whereas Article 3, Section 1, Clause B of the ACCI Constitution states students have the right to transparency and freedom of information from their student government and student leaders free of cost. Whereas one way in which decisions which affect students are made is at the meetings of the ASUCI Senate and the ASUCI Executive Cabinet. Whereas the posting of agendas outlining the date, time, location, and items to be discussed of a meeting is a key transparency measure in most government agencies. Whereas the posting of agendas outlining the date, time, location, and items to be discussed in the meetings required by law under the Ralph M. Brown Act in all local government agencies, including community college associations and organizations, but not those of the UC due to constitutional autonomy. Whereas this step is nonetheless critical in allowing students to participate in the decision-making process. Whereas the ACCI Senate already posts agendas prior to the meeting times, whereas the ACCI bylaws stipulate who shall write the agendas, but not the procedures for their posting. Whereas Article 3, Section A, Subsection 2, Subsection A, Subsection 1, Clause A states the President serves as the chair of the Executive Cabinet and is responsible for coordinating weekly cabinet meetings, setting an agenda, and meeting individually with the Vice Presidents on a regular basis. Whereas Article 3, Section B, Subsection 1, Subsection A, Subsection 2 states the President of the Senate serves as coordinator for Senate and as such is responsible for maintaining the function of the Senate as outlined in the Senate bylaws, including but not limited to agendas and minutes of meetings, correspondence relating to bills and resolutions and meeting places, and adequate publicity for all meetings of the Senate. Therefore, let it be resolved that Article 3, Section A, Subsection 2, Subsection A, Subsection 1 be amended so as to insert Clause G, which shall read, shall be responsible for creating and publicly posting the agendas of meetings of the ACCI Executive Cabinet a minimum of 2 hours in advance and ensuring that all meeting agendas are permanently archived. Therefore, let it be resolved that Article 3, Section B, Subsection 1, Subsection A be amended so as to insert Subsection 12, which shall read, shall be responsible for creating and publicly posting the agendas of meetings of the ACCI Senate a minimum of 2 hours in advance and ensuring that all meeting agendas are permanently archived.
Okay. Discussion is not open on this item. Keep that.
2 hours is not enough time. 2 hours is what it takes me to get from home to school. 2 hours notice of a meeting, which I then have to also study on what is going to occur on that meeting. Not to mention that my understanding is that executive cabinet meetings are closed meetings, where members of the public can attend, that's an entire other nutshell, but 2 hours is not enough time.
Okay, so if I can swap?
Yeah.
So the reason why I chose 2 hours at first is because at my community college, it was 24 hours, no, it was 2 hours if there was an emergency meeting, and then the usual 72 hours for any other meetings. So I chose 2 hours just based off of that. But we can have the discussion in rules if we want to amend and increase the amount of time between when the meeting and when the agendas would have to be posted.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, since you quote the Brown Act, for the Brown Act, it's 72 hours for a regular meeting and 24 hours for an emergency meeting. So even under the state of California laws, we're still coming in at less time than an emergency meeting. And an emergency meeting under the state of California is the Capitol building exploding. So it has to be more than 2 hours.
Is there any more questions?
I normally don't comment, but we're not part, like, we do get a budget from the state of California, as you all know, but we do have autonomy. That's why we don't follow the same rules, per se. If we do follow the same rules, it's because we want to, and not necessarily because we have to. Although I can definitely see your point about why it's necessary to have more time for meetings. I know I'm guilty of publishing the agenda 30 minutes before the meeting starts, but that's all for you to decide.
Is there any more items for discussion?
So if there's no more discussion, then I move to commit this legislation to the Rules Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to commit to Rules Committee. Are there any objections? Seeing none? So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. R5486 Bylaws Amendment defining the relationship between half absence and total absence with the author please give me.
So whereas Article 6, Section F or ASUCI bylaw does not state the relationship between total absence and half absence, whereas it's unclear that what types of disciplinary action will be imposed upon a senator who has half absent daily, whereas with the current ASUCI bylaw, a senator might be able to have a reasonable amount of half absence during a quarter while not being eligible for dismissal for by legislation from the Rules Committee. Therefore, let it resolve Article 6, Section F of the ASUCI bylaw be amended so as to insert clause 7, which states which shall read 2 half absences shall be counted as a total absence pursuant to Article 6, Section F, subsection 4.
Okay, discussion on it. Any questions? Okay, just sure clear.
What is it, a half absence? Is that like being 30 minutes late, like what is it?
A half absence is if literally, if you come here, like, and you're still able to make it like 51% of the time.
So the way a half absence is currently defined,
30 minutes.
it's basically if you arrive more than 30 minutes late, or you leave early at any time.
Oh, okay.
Wait, this is coming in 30 minutes late or arriving?
30 minutes or more late, or if you leave early at any time. So like even if you leave early, only 2 minutes. Those are the two like definitions of what constitutes a half absence.
There's already legislation about absences, and I know, considering myself, I can't make most of the meetings because I have class until 6:20. And so what happens is that usually when the professor decides to leave, like there's a class early, I can't come here, but it's mostly half absences. So, I mean, what would be the case for students that have class that already have legislation to say that if you have class to miss, if you have to miss Senate, but you can come later, like, what would you do?
I mean, if that was the excuse for absence, then that wouldn't count as an absence as well. So that won't be a disciplinary action.
But on the attendance, it's counted as an absence, not really counted for excused absence.
I think it has to do with like excusable absence or not excuse, because this piece of legislation relation.
I think what Senator Munoz was stating is that at the moment, there are guidelines for what constitutes an unexcused absence, but there are no such guidelines for half absences. So in a situation similar to a student Senator Munoz described, they can go the entire quarter, show up to half of Senate meetings, and not be subject to dismissal. But under the proposal that you are presenting, such an individual would be eligible for dismissal for missing half of the meeting.
So for this piece of legislation, just count two half absence as one total absence, and everything, all the procedure would just follow what total absence will be. That's just what I tried to do here.
We understand that. What we're saying is that there are people currently who use half absences to attend Senate, and under your legislation, they would be dismissed. Because there are no guidelines to excuse half absences.
Senator Whitfield?
So I still haven't made my decision on like where to stand on this legislation, but I do have a suggestion about a way to resolve this dilemma is have a distinction between an excused half absence and an unexcused half absence.
Senator Munoz?
What would count as an excuse and an unexcused?
So that would be up to, well, in the author and the rules committee if they make amendments. I would assume that the criteria would be similar to that for a full absence.
The criteria would stay as Senator Lee was saying, then I think my piece of legislation just follow what that is. Because what happened is two half absent will become total absent, and all the total absent has already been written in the bylaw.
Is there any more questions? Senator?
I want to make the rules for Madhaga. This legislation needs more discussion.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any objections to commit this legislation in rules? Seeing none. Okay, so rules, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. 5418, Week 10, Farmside Community Friday. Would the author please give the reading?
The Pharmaceutical Sciences Peer Academic Advisors are hosting an event called Week 10 Farmside Community Friday, taking place March 15, 2019 at St. House Hall. Whereas the event is meant to unite pharmaceutical science students together with food, drinks, and company before finals week of spring break. Whereas the PAAs are hoping to add Costco pizza, churros, and drinks for the constituents of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Whereas ASUCI Senate has funds that can be used for the constituents of the university and their events. Whereas the peer academic advisors need funding for this event. Whereas this would also provide a great opportunity for the Pharmaceutical Sciences Center to network to the constituents. Therefore, let it be resolved that the ASUCI Senate assisted tentatively purchasing the following items: 6 pizza boxes, 99.6, and churros, Sprite 12-pack cans, Coca-Cola 12-pack cans, Korean exam books, Scantrons. Therefore, let it be further resolved that approximately $117.97 be allocated from Senate Council and allocated funds 7805-6501 to Pharmaceutical Science Center to facilitate this event on March 15, 2018 in St. House Hall, room 231 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Now for discussion. Did I put this in finance? I did not.
No, that was not.
Senator Goodman?
Yeah, I think this is a good event. I think this is a good bill. It's just that earlier this year, I think we decided not to vote on the legislation where we were trying to buy Rockstar, and the reason was because it was an unhealthy drink. And Coca-Cola and Sprite are technically like unhealthy drinks. I mean, I am in support of this legislation. It's just that, do we have the same standards we had before, or are we changing our standards? That was what he said. Yeah.
So I actually haven't bought things yet, and I was actually considering buying something else, so, I mean, you say that, I was like, oh yeah, I do that as well.
Senator Quintas?
Two questions. The first is that I imagine this would be a reimbursable legislation, correct? And then the second question, this is an event being held by the peer academic advisors. Why isn't the School of Pharmaceutical Sciences funding their peer academic advisors to hold this event?
I think it's just because they don't have enough funds for this event, so I think the department's really small, so as to how much money you can get from just funding one event, I'm not sure what their like cutoff is. What the director of student affairs told me was that she will want my contribution from the ASUCI just because they can afford it.
Any more comments? Patty?
I think it will be, I need to check on this because I think Coca-Cola is one of the items listed and UCI is under Pepsi contract. So like, are we allowed to bring in Coca-Cola or anything else other than Pepsi? I don't know. I need to look into that
Yes.
again.
Thank you, I'd like to know that.
Once again,
Senator Archibald?
Yeah, just because this is like on the floor right now, and just to not set precedent on anything, I want to say Coca-Cola, I'm not, sodas compared to energy drinks are not on the same level. In many countries, energy drinks are labeled by legislation as stimulants, whereas soda is not. So to put them on the same level,
Martinez?
So I just clicked on the UCI procurement services, which deals with all like customer service and then dealing with all like the food stuff on campus. And specifically, I was looking at their spreadsheet, which deals with all the contract suppliers. And then it specifically says the company in question is Pepsi Beverages Company. They have a contract, they have a sponsorship agreement with UCI. And then the specific clause says Pepsi desires the right to be exclusive supplier of beverages at UCI.
I don't think it has anything to do with.
I'm gonna say why.
Yeah, okay.
First thing, just because we're an entity of UCI does not mean that contract applies to us. And second thing, we have had students go all over this nation, eat at Chipotle, eat at various different restaurants where Coca-Cola is served, and if that was a rule, they would not have been given money.
Recommendation, to avoid all the problems, maybe you should just put food in a grand amount so you can just get whatever you want. You don't gotta deal with all the details and stuff, or you can call it
That's not-
soda.
But at the same time, like, if I buy Coke, will I, like, will someone have to tell me, like, no, I shouldn't have it, that's what I don't really want it.
Should just be called
Just-
soda.
Just go buy Coke to be safe.
My suggestion, since we are moving towards the area of amending this bill, I just recommend that we end discussion and we amend this bill in finance.
Cool. Is there a second?
Second.
Wait, that was kind of.
That was not a motion.
Oh, that was not a motion. My bad. Is there a motion on the floor, but that time has expired? I'll take a motion.
Motion to commit to finance.
Is there a second? Second. Are there any objections to committing this legislation to finance? Bill?
It's already committed.
I don't know, actually.
No, it's not.
I actually didn't do it because I don't think it's right for the last meeting to just spend money. When it is the last meeting, I don't think it's right to rush.
In terms of the agenda, it's already committed.
It's already committed?
Yes.
I don't even know what I do sometimes anymore. All right, we're gonna move on to the next item. Wait, are there any objections?
I think they're allowed. It's not.
It's already objections.
Are there any objections?
What?
Seeing none, item is committed to Finance Committee. Next item on the agenda, B5419, Public Health Booth, no. Yes. Yes, Public Health Boothing. Just
It was right there.
Whereas the goal of all centers in the public health center is to promote well-being.
It was right there.
Whereas final week is stressful for all students and food for sleepless nights and unhealthy eating habits. Whereas some students are unable to pay for their testing material. Whereas providing opportunity for students to distress and have a healthy snack and testing materials quickly will lessen the burden on students on an already stressful week. Whereas this will provide opportunity for the public health center to read up their constituents and better understand their needs. Therefore, let it be resolved that the ASUCI Senate approves $20 to be used to purchase school supplies consisting of the following. For this paper, you might from the ASUCI account, but only for the funds.
Okay. So that discussion.
Before we, so I just wanted to clarify, so I called the person, and I got the book for, next Wednesday, because I don't have classes, and then I got a call back to literally before I walked into Senate meeting saying that the person was new and in training and she didn't know basically what she was doing, and she, put me into a briefing session for not ASUCI and as a organization, which it doesn't work this way, so I have to go through a different, route now, so I'm not sure, my meeting is next Tuesday, I'm not sure if, there's gonna be briefing, I have to cancel my briefing in order for me to apply for another briefing session, so I'm not sure if it's gonna be, processed in time for finals week, but if it does, then I'm for sure gonna do it, no matter what day it's on, I'm just gonna make time to do it, but, yeah, but I just wanna let you guys know that, so it's clarified.
Senator Quitas?
I would just say that it doesn't specify the quarter, so if it doesn't go through, you have $200 for spring.
Senator Goodman?
My concern is just that it doesn't really say like the breakdown of like how much will be used for each, but that's something we could do in committee.
Last one is, this one is already in the agenda.
And I mean,
Julie?
How come you have both blue and green books when I'm green books?
I've seen students use both blue and green books, so I didn't want to like, discriminate, yeah, thanks. So yeah.
Wait, yeah, because students use both?
Yeah, I've seen students use both, like some teachers are very specific on what they want, so I didn't want to pick blue or green books because professors really sometimes prefer one or the other. Like I had professors who really adamant about blue books.
I mean, yeah. I think the only difference between green books and blue books is they're literally the same thing, it's just one is made out of recycled material,
Yeah.
and the blue book is just new.
It's literally, yeah.
That's the only difference, there's no difference other than recycled.
Yeah, I don't know, as a professor, like sticky about only the blue books, so I should have so weird.
Senator Yang?
From my understanding, all professors should have been notified that that green books are gonna be slowly transitioned, so in the future, there won't be any blue books left, so they have to accept green books.
Yeah. Julie?
Yeah, and I think, since ACS Sustainability Commission has been working to transition to green books, like, since we are also part of ACA and the Senate, support sustainability as well, like, I think we should support their commission in, giving out green books instead of both.
My recommendation is, if you're gonna continue down this path, then you should take the stance of the Senate to only fund sustainable, products whenever you do a bill. Sure. There's a lot of hands. You've gone before. Senator Muji, you haven't gone.
If the person that was in charge of making made a mistake, then it is their responsibility and they have to take action to get an rebate that you originally requested.
I mean, that's what I said too, but she was saying because she's new, she doesn't really know what she can do. Because, I was already gonna pay the $25 fee to get it, like, be within the 10-day short notice, because I wasn't sure, if I was gonna go with the registration on this quarter. And I decided I ended up doing it, and so, yeah, they told me that even though they messed up and it's on their part, it doesn't mean that they can do. I didn't want to fight that more than I'd already done, so I just kind of like went with it, and I made an appointment for Tuesday to talk to them.
Okay. I'll let Alex.
I mentioned to strike out blue books and just leave blue books.
Second.
So is your motion, can you clarify your motion? Is it just to strike blue and just put green books?
Yes.
So blue and. So it's been motioned to strike out blue and. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any objections from striking blue and from the last result? Seeing none, it will be stricken. I can't make the amendment right now. For some reason, I can't edit legislation or insert anything. I actually don't know. And I can't even add anyone or do anything. I don't quite understand. That's happening. So I can't tabulate anything right now. Actually, agendas I can. Mr. Gunnerman?
This is just an FYI thing. Because I was in last year's Senate. Last year we actually passed a legislation in support of the Green Book initiative. So in Senate last year, our stance was for Green Book. It's just an additional information. Again. With that, I think I motion to end discussion.
Second.
It's been moved to end discussion and seconded. Are there any objections? Seeing none, discussion is now over. And we will move on to the next item on the agenda. In support of ratifying revisions to the UCSA charter. So, what's going on? What? What do you mean, what? Yeah. Daniel, you mentioned that the link doesn't work for the UCSA charter?
Yeah,
it does not.
Yeah, it's broken.
I also have a quick question.
Sure.
Is there a roster of where to get like folks' names for seconds? Cause this is like the third time my name's been spelled wrong, and I'm really hurt.
I really hurt.
You know what?
Isn't it on the main website? Like you just open it and there's your
What is
face
it?
and your name right there.
Come on, so.
It's probably me. It's probably me misspelling it.
But then we have.
He's right
there.
Oh, no. Okay.
But it's because I thought he was actually supposed to be.
Well,
There's
that's
also
fine.
this.
I can't.
There's also, oh my God.
That's actually probably why I spelled it wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. I'll go ahead and fix that as soon as I can.
Are you sure you're spelling your name right?
Okay. I have to pass my chairship. Actually, no, I don't. No, I spelled his name wrong. I'll read it.
So
Oh my God!
That was really hurtful.
Oh, he's absolutely right.
Can the author please provide us with a reading?
Whereas the University of California Student Association, UCSA, is the official statewide association for the University of California. Whereas all UC students benefit from a statewide association that lobbies, organizes, and advocates for the improvement of the quality of the University of California. Whereas the UCSA and the students of the UC schools are better represented with the UCSA chapter when the UCSA chapter is updated regularly to suit the needs of the UC students. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Associated Students of the University of California, Irvine, ratifies the UCSA charter amendment approved by the UCCA board at its October meeting. It would actually be a lot better if the PDF worked, so let me see if I can get a,
Any objections to opening the floor for discussion? No. For discussion? We'll wait for the
I think Deshay, you talk about it, while I try and write the amendments real quick.
Can I ask for my birth certificate back? Thank you. Oh my God, wait a minute.
I need this.
That's another casual name.
So yes, as it was stated, that, this was, amendments that were, approved on by the UCSA board. This is something that we would have to go through each individual student, to get, the actual ratification done, just because it's ratified doesn't mean it's put through. So that is why I brought it to y'all. I did intend for it to be brought a bit earlier in the quarter, but yeah, it's just more so like in order for the changes to be made, I might be able to find a doc that shows like this, like the changes that they made specifically, so I can look for that right now, but yeah.
I have it, I'm just trying to like do it faster, sorry.
Is it the one with the strikeouts as well? or-
Yeah, it's the one
Okay.
with it's red, and it has the original, and then it has the red, and then it has what the,
Okay.
I'm just trying to get that.
But, yeah.
Actually, let me just sign off on mine.
So, any comments, further discussion? Any motions, any concerns?
Well, they need to know what's going on. Give me a second.
Sure.
What, do you know what the amendment is?
There were a few, so like, not specifically exactly what they were changing, but yeah. They do make like significant comments. From what I recall, they were more beneficial though. I think that there was one more, or most of them were specifically into like the way in which like it's
Give me a second.
organized and ran, like meetings wise, so, just more structural stuff in some ways.
Yeah, the technical difficulties.
It's not typical difficulties, I just didn't want you to see my docs. Uh-oh. This is me. Okay. So, all of the red are the changes they're making. Let me see if I can forward this to.
Put it on our Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
but
gonna-
particularly for Facebook.
Just go through it, please.
Okay, alright, it's 8 pages, but okay.
Yeah.
So they're Article 2, they're adding an A, and instead of calling it governments, they put association, because we're not government, we're association.
John?
I guess, so does that still only include, like, I guess associations would just then be student governments, but we're just calling ourselves associations?
Yes.
Okay, no other organizations.
Okay, and they're adding Article 2-B, independence and autonomy. Section A, UCSA is perpetually organized as a voluntary, unincorporated association under the laws of the state of California, and is fully independent and autonomous from the University of California, the Regents of the University of California, and the government of the state of California. Section B, UCSA may enter into an agreement with the Regents of the University of California, establishing the relationship. What did I just do? Establishing a relationship with UCSA and the Regents, providing for the collection of the student fees and payments to UCSA, setting a procedure for the selection of the student regent, and instituting shared governance of the university. This agreement and amendments thereto shall be approved by the pursuant to the same procedure as approval or ratification of amendments to the charter found in Article 7. Except that the approval shall require a majority vote of the board, and ratification shall only require a majority of member associations. This agreement must specifically reference abide by this Article 2-A of Charter for the removal of doubts agreements active as July 1st, 2018 shall remain effective to the regular terms. Section C. Section C, UCSA may not be dissolved or absorbed by any organization external, including those listed in Section B, nor may it enter any agreement which limits its legal autonomy or independence, including the right of UCSA to operate independent revenue-generating activities to the student services and to engage in advocacy activities. Does everyone understand what that means? Okay. No problem. Official representations, they're changing associations, governments. They're striking out all University of California undergraduates, graduate, external, or executive vice president that are equivalent to designee to every UCSA member association, external vice president, or other person designated by the member association, or said person designated, as well as other persons as the bylaws provide for. Section C, striking, enter into the minutes of the board by the annual AUCSA and entering who represents a member association or the other organization shall submit to the UCSA before September 1st. Striking out his, her campus, student government legislative body, a component authority in said organization, e.g. the secretary of the governing body, presiding officer of the election body, etc. Taking out him, her, adding them, during, submit a certification in order to be recognized for the removal of doubt. A person who submits a certification late shall be recognized upon submitting the certification. Section D, eligible member association shall be the University of California undergraduate or graduate professional campus student association. And the striking out, except as provided below, all member associations so certified shall be voting members of the UCSA Board of Directors. So, we're striking out 2/3 voting members in good standing of the board of directors and pretty much designating that the membership fee will be in the bylaws. Member associations are also, instead of put will also be, and some of these are pretty nitpicky. Payment of the membership fees for the member association may be waived whole and part applied by a majority of vote of the board for a period not to exceed 1 year from said vote. Voting members in good standing is what's stricken out. They're adding section G. The bylaws may provide for a method of breaking ties as well as how that affects calculating quorum. That's interesting. Regular, striking out general. Hold a special meeting, meet president, the presiding officer, a petition by a majority of the voting members of the board, or such other methods as provided in the bylaws, or upon. Thirds. They're no longer meeting monthly. However, the board may revise the schedule as it sees fit, so they get to meet whatever they want now. Section B, the UCSA, no longer board of directors, shall elect its elected officers as outlined in the bylaws. The officer shall be elected September 1st of any year, and the regular term shall be approximately 1 year.
I think that's supposed to be a strikeout.
Ah. Cool. Further removal of doubt, this shall not be construed as preventing the association from electing officers after September. Section C, all sessions of the UCSA Board of Directors shall be held in open session except that they're taking out the, right?
No, they're capitalizing the T.
Ah, the board. Nice.
Or sorry, lowercasing it to, because that's, session.
Yeah, because it's no longer the executive board, it's just,
Except that, the board.
it's no longer called the executive board, so it's no longer the board. Okay, so section E, a majority of the board, more than 50% of the majority members in good standing, including the president. That is the majority. The bylaws may provide for systems of proxying, teleconferencing, and/or electronic voting in advance when a member cannot attend. Voting board members may designate a proxy in which writing must be in another sitting board member from that person's association or vote electronically by sending in their vote to the UCSA president, board chair, executive director 24 hours before any vote is to be taken. We're getting rid of the proxy and allowing people to call in. The striking section H completely. The UCSA yearly campaign should be passed at Congress by the students in attendance. After passing in the plenty, each issue should be approved by 60% of all member association. Cool. Section A, the UCSA Board of Directors shall approve, amend, and suspend, instead of waive, such bylaws introduced by any board members as it may be necessary by approval of 2/3 of the pressing voting quorum. Section B, at least 1 week's notice must be given to the board.
Time expired.
I move to extend time by 2 minutes.
So there's a motion, there's second, is there an objection to extending time by 2 minutes?
Excuse me, I'm gonna call like point of order myself. I wasn't called upon, so I'm out of order.
Okay. I motion to extend time by 5 minutes.
So there's a motion to extend time by 5 minutes, is there a second?
Second.
So there are 2 seconds. Is there an objection? No, time is extended by 5 minutes.
Thank you. At least 1 week's notice must be given. The board, striking out all board members and just putting the board. 2, instead of in, the bylaws or suspension of the bylaws which last more than 2 months from the day of said vote, any notice given pursuant to this section shall expire after 60 days. They're striking out, any board member may submit a proposal to amend the bylaws, and they're adding a specific time, 60 days or on July 1st, whichever is sooner. Article, clarification to Shay, this is basically their constitution, right?
Right.
Cool. Section A, a proposal of the amendment. Any UCSA board member may propose an amendment to this charter. They're striking that out. If 2/3 of the board approves a proposed amendment, then it shall be submitted to the member association for ratification. At least 1 month notice must be given to the board, striking all board members, before any action on a proposed charter amendment be taken. Any such notice given pursuant to this section shall expire after 60 days or on July 1st, whenever it is sooner. They're taking out approval, changing it to ratification. 2/3 of the member association voting for approval by a majority vote shall constitute ratification of the proposed amendment. However, any proposed amendment shall expire if not ratified within 1 year of the board calling for the vote of the member association. We're going to Article 8. Associations again, instead of governments. The association may only be dissolved through the same process of amending the charter, which is a majority, if you read earlier, of the voting members voting to dissolve. And then it's Article 9, ratification. There's no changes there.
So yeah, just to give a context, in case any one of us don't know, in every AS in the UC system, we have an EVP, and all the EVPs, they are in this UCSA board, and our representative in that UCSA board is the chair. And this is basically their constitution, and they're trying to amend the constitution. And they usually meet on a monthly basis. Yeah. Michael?
So has the amendment been passed in the board member meeting?
No, so what it is like, this, the amendments to this, ratifications did pass in the board, but that's why we still have to get it, approved by y'all. As, like, each school has to get their senate to approve it for it to be officially recognized.
And so?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many schools have passed it, or have not passed it?
I'm not aware, the one that I am most familiar with is, UC Berkeley, that's what this legislation initially drafted upon. But they were the first to get passed. I think, I can't remember the school that it was, but, there was one portion that they weren't, fully for, because I think it was like, it had to do something like campus specific, so like they couldn't, work it through them, but I'm pretty sure, like I'll know by, next Friday, because that's when, during SOC, we're also having a UCSA, board meeting as well, so, yeah.
By when do you need this? What's the deadline for this?
So the deadline was technically last month, there's still schools that are still, still trying to get it through as well, so we do still have some time, but I mean, I would still want to try to get it done as soon as possible, to not prolong anymore.
Can I ask, like, what is the general purpose of the changes? Because there's so many changes that I kind of lost track of what each one, what all influenced it to exactly.
You want to respond?
Yeah, I mean, I just read it, but for the most part, what they're doing is they're no longer kind of focusing on letting a Congress or a delegation of people propose amendments and focusing on the executive directors to be able to make changes. They are also making it, they're changing a couple of nuanced things. Instead of a government, they're calling it association. They added a clause that says that this group can basically not have loyalty without, it's basically only loyal to the students it represents, not the state of California or the governor or the state legislator or the UC regions or or like the UC system, like the UCOP. It's only loyal to the
That explains again.
And we'll have same time, like 3 minutes.
Hold on, you have to get my,
Sorry.
Daniel?
I move to extend time by 7 minutes.
So there's a motion to extend time by 7 minutes, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, is there an objection? Extended by 7 minutes.
We'll go through it real quick, but this is where they declare the independence and autonomy. As I said, they just clearly say that this body cannot be absolved by anyone. This is only loyal to itself. You cannot, and it cannot even vote itself to be absolved by anything. It changed the voting rules for making amendments to the charter. The timelines for doing the charter, so no longer can it be like it's passed through Congress. They have Congress, I guess. And it's no longer done that. They have to do it by July 1st, if I'm correct. And it's no longer, right here, it says, each member of the association shall pay the minimum membership fee. It'll now, instead of it be like being ratified by the 2/3 of like the standing directors, now it's just the bylaws. That's probably so that Congress or the members who wish to like make it, they can change that as they see fit.
Alexis, you have? Any more comments, concerns, questions, discussion, motion?
They limited to their terms to 1 year as well.
Me?
I move to commit to advocacy.
So there's a motion to commit to advocacy, is there a second?
Second.
So there is multiple seconds, are there any objections to committing this to advocacy? Nope. Commit to advocacy. And pass my chairship back to Saul.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, R 5488, to the Judicial Board Policies and Procedures, open public meeting. The author, please give a reading.
Whereas Section 8, Amendments to Judicial Board Policies and Procedures, subsection 1 states amendments to these policies and procedures shall be instituted by the Legislative Council with terms described in the ASUCI Constitution and ASUCI bylaws, whereas the ASUCI Senate is the recognized successor agency to the ASUCI Legislative Council, and whereas under the Constitution of the Associated Students of the University of California, Irvine, Section 6, Senate, Section 2, Authority and Power, the ASUCI Senate is granted the constitutional authority and mandate of subsection A to enact legislation for the welfare and interest of the undergraduate students, and whereas under the Constitution of the Associated Students of the University of California, Irvine, Article 6, Senate, Section 2, Authority and Powers, the ASUCI Senate is granted the constitutional authority and mandate of subsection Z to create and amend governing documents for ASUCI. Therefore, let it be resolved to strike Section 5 meetings, subsection D of the Judicial Board Policies and Procedures. All weekly meetings shall be closed to the public unless specified by the Judicial Board Chair. And let it further be resolved to insert Section 5 meetings, subsection D, to the Judicial Board Policies and Procedures. All weekly meetings of the ASUCI Judicial Board shall be open to all members of the public.
Okay, it's now open for discussion. Mr. Kuriakos?
Yeah, question to the author.
Sure.
Have you talked to the judicial board about it, and are they in support, or do you think they're gonna?
First thing I would state is that they are a judicial body. I do not believe they need to agree with something. They just need to find it constitutional. Second, the only restriction to closed meetings has been they have to determine closed meetings. And the motto of this university is fiat lux, let there be light. All of our judicial board meetings are in closed session. None of us have any idea what goes on in there or how they vote in how reaching their decisions. In the best interest of transparency and in making sure this organization serves the student body to its fullest ability, those meetings need to be public. Because if not, we are appointing people to 2-year terms, And that's it. We have no idea what goes on in that room.
Okay, so Michelle Bundes, the Vice Chief Justice, she asked me to relay a speech, not really a speech, but and then if you have any questions about like this blurb, just contact her directly. Okay, so quote, "Hello, I apologize for breaking typical Senate decorum. I just wish to convey to you all exactly how reticent the judicial board would be to make this just changes. This legislation will have serious impacts on the carriage of judicial action. Much of the business we discuss oftentimes contains sensitive information. For example, I ask that you consider the holding discussion on recommendations from the judicial board. Is the judicial board to hold discussion all behaviors impeachable before the members of ASUCI in question, or how we are to decide what information is to be confidential or not, as it is our mandate to look over the actions of the Joint Committee on Transparency. If the information being discussed is itself classified, the process of verification inherently private information. If the dialogue you all wish to have regarding transparency of the branch, we welcome the discussion. I simply ask that arbitrary decisions like this are not made absent of our input. I firmly uphold that as a body, the Senate is capable of making the aforementioned changes. I just ask that you consider the lasting ramifications. I'm unable to deliver the following remarks due to another commitment. In the least, I ask the bills tabled in order to allow for a judicial board representative to share our concerns. That's all. Thank you.
Can I respond?
Well, it's not my words.
No, but what I would respond to her is the following. This is for weekly meetings. The only things they should be discussing at weekly meetings should be the legislations we pass. There are other sections in the judicial board and policies that explicitly state closed meetings for hearings as to personal conduct and whether or not individuals should be impeached for said conduct. This is just the weekly meeting that should be taking place every week to ratify as constitutional the actions of this Senate. Nothing more, nothing less.
I mean, I have to say, I agree with Senator Quintas in this because these are decisions that affect our students, and I believe that our students have the right to transparency to know what is going on. How can we, there's a distrust of ASUCI on our campus. It's been there for years. And how can we go back to our students and tell them that they should trust us when we're making these decisions behind closed doors, when they don't even know when we're making these decisions, don't even know the rationale behind them? And I also have to object to the idea of the judicial board now trying to sway our vote by interjecting themselves into this debate.
Okay, so I'm gonna go Senator Archibald and then Goodman.
So I think we should kind of move this onto the topic of whether or not we should table this legislation, seeing as we wouldn't meet again until the first Tuesday of spring quarter. I'm not sure if this is the right time to table this legislation, given I do want to give the judicial board their right to have a debate with us and hear what they have to say about this, since we are really about transparency.
Senator Goodman? Okay, so I'm gonna let, I saw your hand first, and both of you will go twice. Go for it.
So I just want to reiterate that those are not my words, those are the words of Michelle Bundes. So if you have any questions, please go to her. Thank you.
Senator Whitram.
Oh, I just want to reiterate that tabling would kill this resolution because we can only table for 48 hours. So I do want to bring up that because this is a change to a governing documents, this does have to go to rules. It won't be voted right here and now, but we also shouldn't let ourselves be swayed by another branch arbitrarily.
No, the only reason I would want to hear from the judicial board is to inform my vote. I understand the Senate's point of view, and I understand my point of view, but I don't know what exactly happens at the judicial board meeting. Maybe there is some, reason for them to not, agree with the legislation. So just have them just inform my vote on the legislation.
Okay, so Julie, I saw your hand first, and then I saw Michael's, and then I'll, Julie?
So what I would recommend is link it to rules and either rules to talk with the J board, but if they didn't even do that, it will still be presented on the Senate floor, and then when we have it in old business, that's when J board can come, so I would recommend committing it to rules now. And,
I see you, Senator Goodman, but other people want to make comments. Michael?
I remember SAG mentioned that judicial board didn't meet quorum for their weekly meeting today. Is that true?
That is true, yes.
Okay. I just want to say that it's not the first time we hear that. And in general, their response time has been very long to whether a legislation passes or not. Pressure must be made, and I think this is a proper way.
I think to Senator Kiva's point, I think it's true what he says in order to be transparent. I think a lot of the times people claim transparency, but the actions aren't mobilized for transparency. And their meetings weekly should be discussing the legislations. Any sensitive information, as he said, should be discussed in closed session. I would also like to remind everybody here that you are not voting as yourself or your constituents. So you should be voting in the interest of the students you are serving. So regardless if you feel that this may or may not be in line with how you view transparency, how would your constituents feel about these decisions? So I think oftentimes in government, people often vote on their own belief, but instead you should really be thinking about how this is going to affect your constituents. So I would like to remind you all, I agree with Senator Quintas on this legislation, so I think it really at least mobilizes transparency opposed to empty words sometimes. So, yeah.
Senator Goodman.
Yeah, I mean, like in Senate, we discussed legislations on live stream. Like, why can't J board do it too? You know, why should there be like things that like are like confidential when like almost 30 of us discuss legislation twice a week, like on live stream. So I don't see any point, anything that should be confidential when discussing about our bills and legislation. Yeah, that's my point of view.
Okay, Julie.
when we say open to the public, is that just if you want to go to the meeting, you can, or are we gonna say something like, you got a live stream?
Well, as they're conducted right now, they set the meeting whenever they'd like, meet whenever they'd like, and they don't have to post anything or tell anybody where or when. They just let our student advocate general know when they came to a consensus, and he would relay the message to us.
Oh, so they don't, like, you meet 5 to 7 to do the they don't have that?
No.
So they have to meet once a week?
They do have to meet once a week, but they don't have a set time.
See,
Okay,
another
so-
amendment.
Okay, so in our bylaws, Article 16, Judicial Board, Section A, subsection 1, subsection 2, states the following. A judicial board member shall attend weekly meetings to review all pending legislation and other business. Meetings shall be held each Wednesday after 5 p.m. unless a different time is chosen by the judicial board chief justice and approved by the majority of the judicial board. And then I'll just complete the whole thing. Any J board member absent from 3 weekly meetings per quarter shall be subject to the automatic forfeiture of the office. An appeal may be made to the Senate, which may exercise the right to reinstate a J board member upon speaker's affirmative vote of the voting members present.
I mean, just that alone, I have questions, like, how do they keep track of, like, attendance? How do we know what, yeah, and you know what, I'm the chair, I can't do that. But, everyone has made comments before, you are the author of legislation, I'm gonna give you the right.
So, based on that reading, what this legislation aims, and I would say it's only the beginning, is that whether it's intentional or not, one of our branches of government has a culture of secrecy. Whether they are agreeing to that culture, whether it's purposeful or not, I would remind you all that Their job is to uphold constitutionality, not to agree to what we do. I believe that in the best efforts of serving our students, that culture of secrecy needs to be washed away. Just as we post our attendance records, just as our conversations take place in public, so should theirs. And just as we hold ourselves to a higher standard, so should they. And when the argument is made that we are a mimicry of the federal government, I would remind them, yes, the Senate is a mimicry, so is the J Board, so is the executive, but it's a mimicry, not an exact copy. Just as we are not United States senators, they are not justices of the Supreme Court of the United States. Not all exact replicas apply. We have a higher standard of service to our students, and that is what this legislation aims to. The legislations that come after this are legislations mandating agendas, mandating publication of their attendance, mandating timely, proper, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I didn't write this down. Postings of their rulings within a certain time period. Things that better serve our students, because it's the only communication our students and this branch has with the third branch of our government is our student advocate general. And while he has done an exceptional job, I believe that's unacceptable.
I have an emergency motion.
Sure.
I motion to extend the adjournment of this meeting to 7:10 p.m.
It's at 7:20, right?
7:10 p.m. Is there a second?
I second it.
There's been moved and seconded. Are there any objections to extending the time to adjournment at 7:10? Any objections? Seeing none, 7:10 is now the new adjournment. Julie?
Motion to commit to rules.
Second. It has been moved to commit to rules. Is there a second? It is multiple seconds. Kuriakos is the one I'm recognizing. Are there any objections? Okay, seeing none. We'll put this to rules and we'll move on to the next item of the agenda. R5491, ASUCI in support of opening upper division labs to public health science students. So, would the author please give a reading?
Yeah, so whereas the public health center's constituents' top concern would be unable to get into their upper division lab courses, whereas upper division lab courses are first open to biological science students and filling quickly before school restrictions are open, whereas public health science students in upper division lab courses to graduate on time, whereas the summer quarter is not an option for many students due to classes not being covered by financial aid, whereas students do not wish to take out loans for summer classes. Therefore, let it be resolved that Associated Students of the University of California, is in support of opening up for division labs to students only in the major public health science to ensure students have fair access to the courses they need to graduate on time and avoid any extra costs that would come with enrolling in summer courses. Therefore, let it be further resolved if this legislation passes, it will be sent to the Department of Public Chair Dr. O in order to show support of ASUCI to proceed forward with action.
Sorry. With that, discussion is now open. Michael?
Motion to amend all summer quarter to classes to summer session. I think that's the official name. Utilizing it, so apparently it's a branch of the thing.
That motion as to what?
Strike out all the summer classes and replace them with summer session, which is the official name.
So, you're gonna have to submit this in writing. There's multiple cases.
There's no second.
Well, there's no second.
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 Wait, what?
Is that a second or a second?
Summer session. Summer session? Is that what you're saying?
Summer session.
Summer session.
Is that bad? Why is that bad? Yeah, go for it. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to strike out all summer classes and courses and adding session. Are there any objections? Seeing none, if you could please submit it in writing so that we can make the amendment appropriately, I would